Hey, what's up, everybody? Video 44 coming at you another video. All right, so I figured I'd do a Boston Celtics Miami Heat breakdown. Not really a breakdown because I don't know these teams that well, but just a little opinion piece and a prediction piece, I guess is what I'll say. Um, so basically, both of these teams are definitely teams that were in the bubble 2 years ago in the Eastern Conference Finals. As we all know, this is a rematch on both sides. Nothing to see there. Totally not funny to see, right? That's nothing. But anyway, so that's what we got. A return to the bubbles teams, and because of it, the Heat and the Celtics get a chance to, clash with their cores once again. And a lot of what it is, I think, is going to tell the story. Has to do with whether or not Tyler Hero will be returning in this series. From what I understand, there's a chance he may. There's a chance he may give it a go somewhere in this series somehow. So, if there's a possibility to that, and he's able to give them good Tyler Hero play and give them that punch off the bench that they always need, um, I think that can go a long way in helping them win the series. Uh, you look at the Boston Celtics. First of all, they definitely have home court advantage, to say the least, since they were, I think, the top number 2 seeds overall this year for the most part. And then, of course, the Miami Heat have made history by getting this far into the playoffs after being a bubble contender. So, not bubble contender, play-in tournament contender is what I'm trying to say. So, you gotta give the Miami Heat all the credit in the world for just putting themselves in a position to continue to churn away and overachieve with really, really solid role players and a system that just continues to be pick and plug no matter what. They always impress. They always play better than what it looks like they should on paper, and they always put themselves in a position to look good on both sides of the floor, particularly defensively. Just being scrappy, and guys like Gabe Vincent, Caleb Martin, they just hit shots, man. And you got to give them credit as well because they've lost Victor Oladipo this year. Obviously, Tyler Hero went down right at the beginning of the Milwaukee series, and they still have found a way to withstand all of this and fight their way through the playoffs against some really solid competition. Obviously, they beat Giannis in the first round, even though he didn't play more than half the series. He was there in the closeout game. You know what I mean? And so that's really what it came down to. Then from there, of course, Miami went on and faced who they just beat. I don't remember who they just beat, but they had a good team that they beat. I just remember well the Knicks. The Knicks was a very deep team, but Julius Randle, his decision making ultimately just caved the Knicks in as we expected it would. So that's really what I see there. Honestly, it ain't deeper than that. They just ran into a Knicks team that just played right into their hands by doing dumb stuff all series long. And so now they get a chance to see the Boston Celtics, a team that's I say kind of plays with their food. They're a really obviously super talented team with championship level talent. They've been to the finals 2 years ago. You know what I mean? This is a real team. Uh, Last year they were in the finals rather, and so this is a situation where I look at the Boston Celtics. Obviously, they got a rookie coach in Joe Mazzulla. They had a rookie coach last year when they went to the finals, so that's not a thing. Uh, Al Horford's in place, Robert Williams in place, um, obviously Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum, uh, Marcus Smart. Got to talk about Derek White. Got to mention the sixth man of the year, Malcolm Brogdon. So you see a lot of talent there in Boston. Looking at the Miami Heat, you start with Jimmy and Bam. You know, they're two-way guys. Obviously, Bam is more of a one-way guy, but he can occasionally score, and when he does, he really helps his team. You look at a guy like Max Strus, who shot very well from behind the arc. Also somebody who can play some defense, rebound, get scrappy, 50-50 balls, stuff like that. Um, Gabe Vincent is a guy who's turned himself into a fantastic shooter. I believe this guy used to play for the Celtics too, so that might have a little bit of bulletin board material for him in regards to the series. Maybe he wants to take it to his old team. I think he played for the Celtics. So it's one of those type of situations where, anything that they can use as bulletin board material against this Celtic team is big. You're looking at the shooting of the Miami Heat as something that could really hurt the Boston Celtics in this series if they don't respect them from behind the arc. When you look at a guy like Kevin Love and you look at a guy like Duncan Robinson, they can win you a game just by shooting extremely well, the both of them. So guarding the perimeter for the Boston Celtics is going to be imperative. Um, Also, I think the Miami Heat are in a good position because what you want to be able to do is have size enough to offset and defensive players enough to offset what Bam is going to be doing. Because Bam's going to rebound, Bam's going to lock up, Bam's going to create problems. So what you want is to have a guy like Robert Williams who can do the same thing, guys like Al Horford who can do the same thing. So both of these teams are going to have some scrappy bigs down there that make life hard on one another. On one another's superstars and star forwards. It's going to be very, very tough. The Jimmy Butler versus Jaylen Brown, I guess. Maybe that's the matchup there. Maybe they try to put Jimmy on Jason Tatum, or I don't know how they're going to do it, but I think that's where it gets a little tricky. Who is guarding Jason Tatum? If you put the wrong person on him, it's night-night. If it's going to be Max Strus all series long, he's going to pick Max apart eventually. So these two teams face off a lot. They see each other all the time. Usually the Celtics get the best of the Heat. And that's kind of what I expect to see. Unfortunately, as a Laker fan, I definitely don't want that. But I'm waiting for the Heat to come back down to earth. As they've withstood all that they've had coming at them, Jimmy Butler's played so very well. But at the end of the day, these guys really are role players. They only have a couple star-level guys. You got Kyle Lowry, who's a star-level guy, and he's just played fantastic this season, in these playoffs particularly. And him playing at the level he's played is also giving them a different cachet in regards to what it is you expect to see from the Miami Heat. Him turning back the clock and providing continuity and consistent three-point shooting and laying the ball up in the way that he does, hitting trick shot layups and all kinds of stuff, pressure on the rim, but being a good free throw shooter, and can be kind of scrappy defensively with a big body. He's going to be an important piece in this series. They can't have him faltering or not being out there or something like that like last year. That was a big part of the problem for the Heat. They didn't have Kyle Lowry last year when they needed him. This year, he's healthy going into the Eastern Conference Finals, and I think there's a big difference going into it. But the problem is they got extra guards over there in Boston. A guy like Malcolm Brogdon wasn't there last year. You got to deal with him now. And they didn't lose Derek White. They didn't lose Marcus Smart. They didn't lose Jaylen Brown. So it's a situation where you look at the Boston Celtics, you say, man, you like their guard situation versus the Miami Heat because Oladipo's not out there. Tyler Hero's obviously not going to be out there to start the series, so this is why you like Boston. They're just going to have their way with those guards. So one would think, but then again, you look at how the Miami guards were having their way with Milwaukee guards and how they were able to overcome what New York was throwing at them, so maybe they'll have the same success with a Celtic team that tends to play with their food just like my Lakers do. Something about these old 17 championship guys, they just think that they can kind of not play hard all the time, or rather not put themselves in a position to take everybody as serious as they need to, playing down to the level of the opponent. That can hurt the Celtics in this series, very much so, thinking that because they're going up against a Miami Heat team that played in the play-in tournament, that they can just go in here and not play as hard. If you do that, it'll definitely cost you in this series against a Jimmy Butler-led basketball team with Eric Spoelstra, who levels the playing field in regards to what we're looking at because of the fact that he is going up against a rookie coach. A rookie coach at the beginning of the season who probably wasn't supposed to be hired as a head coach, but was having to be forced into that position because of the circumstances that was going on. I think Mazzulla has done a fantastic job. It's a big reason why they're here. But at the same time, you got to look at the fact that he's going up against Eric Spoelstra, and we saw what he just did to Thibodeau. You know what I mean? And we saw what he just did to, the coach in Milwaukee, Budenholzer. You don't have a job no more after that. So this is how real it is for the Boston Celtics going up against this guy. And I don't take it lightly. Not after what we've been seeing him do in these playoffs strategically. No. I think this series is probably going 7. I think the series is going to go the entire distance, especially if Tyler Hero is going to find his way back into this series, especially if Miami's able to catch one of these first 2 games on the road. If the Boston Celtics will come up here and catch both of these 2 games at home, they got to get them both, in my opinion, going up against that team that has all the house money, happy to be here, but definitely know what they're doing just the same. That kind of thing. Nobody expecting to win a championship, but Jimmy Butler is hell-bent on getting Larry O'Brien in his hands. Jason Tatum is a phenomenal talent who's proven himself, but he also, this is what I always say about tale of 2 halves type of games. When he had that game where he was 1 for 10 in the first half and then proceeded to close the game with 2 straight 3-point shots that was heroic, historic, and all of that. Both of those people showed up that day. Both versions of Jason Tatum were there. Not just the one that won the game, the one who was 1 for 10. If that Jason Tatum shows up too often against Jimmy Butler, he's going to lose the games he's in. You can't have Jason Tatum being inconsistent in the series. You can't have him going 9 for 30. That you can't have inefficient Jason Tatum against the Miami Heat. They're too scrappy on the boards. It's too much Bam. It's too much Jimmy. It's too much shooting ability. They're able to connect on shots with high efficient shooters. You do not at all, if you're the Boston Celtics, want to see Jason Tatum not be his best self in this series. So that's the first thing that needs to be said. If he's anything less than himself, it's going to affect him in a massive, massive way. Jaylen Brown is fantastic. He's going to put pressure on the rim. He's going to be guarded by some really scrappy guards, but I think he'll get the best of those guys. Don't be surprised if he has big, big numbers, but also don't be surprised if they just put Jimmy on him the whole time and rid themselves of all this nonsense, because that's probably the best bet in containing that dude. You just got to put Jimmy on him. just Jimmy, that's your assignment. And let the chips fall where they may and figure out what the hell you're going to do with Jason Tatum. Because I think I don't watch a whole lot of these two teams, so maybe it works out, but I wouldn't think putting Jimmy on Jason Tatum is probably going to work very often. And I don't think putting Bam on Jason Tatum is ever going to work really. I don't think Bam has a lot of movement for that. Maybe I'm wrong, but I just don't see that. So it's probably going to be some Max Strus type of situation. And I just know Max Strus, he's going to be scrappy. He's going to make Jason work on the defensive end as well. But that's not a matchup you expect Jason to lose really at all. And when you consider just how much those guards are coming at you with, when you think of the combination of Smart, White, Brown, and Brogdon, when you think about exactly how much talent that is, I have a hard time seeing Caleb Martin, Gabe Vincent, Kyle Lowry, outclassing those guys. I just think that the guard differential is pretty significant in favor of the Celtics. So yeah, you got to look at the further down on the bench. I guess you could say I don't think the teams are going to go too deep into their bench, but both of these teams have the ability to go deep. The center position, I know the Miami Heat have a center back there. I'm just not considering. I don't know exactly who it is, but I remember that they were there. So this is one of those situations where their center position is going to have to be accounted for. They're going to have to get something out of whoever that is. It can't just be Bam Adebayo playing 48 minutes and expecting them to be able to overcome Al Horford, Time Lord. You know what I'm saying? No. You're going to need heavy dose of whoever the hell that is on the back of that bench playing the center position. And so Kevin Love is not the answer there. Obviously not. So these are the things I'm looking at, and I just say, I know Spoelstra will figure out a way to attack this team, which is why I have it going 7. He'll figure out a way. The Heat are going to be an extraordinarily tough out for a Boston Celtic team that is as talented as we believe they are, but has the trait of not really showing up every night. They have holes in their game, in their personality that wasn't there last year. That's what I see in that Celtic team. I just don't know that when it really comes down to it, I trust them to win the big series because of that trait. It's the same problem I have with my Lakers. So it is what it is, man. I like the Celtics to win the series in 7 because I think that Jason Tatum's just going to ultimately be the best player on the floor. I think that with home court advantage, I think it's going to be hard for Jimmy. Jimmy might come down. It might come down to a last-second shot like last year, that kind of thing. But at the end of the day, it's hard for me to see the Miami Heat overcoming the Boston Celtics without home court advantage, without everybody healthy. Oladipo ain't healthy. Tyler Hero probably ain't going to be 100% at all if he does play in the series. So I just don't see enough on the Miami Heat, really ever, which is why I made a video telling them to blow it up before the play-in tournament ended. And they proceeded to make me look foolish by being successful. But at the end of the day, there is a massive talent gap between them and the Boston Celtics going into this series. It's massive. And if Jimmy Butler doesn't continue to be the all-world Jimmy that he's been, the series ain't going to last very long. He's going to have to be that. He's going to have to be over 30 points. He's going to have to be over 8 assists, over 8 rebounds, I think. And he's going to have to be excellent on the defensive end as well. Now, he's proven he can do it. That's why I think it's going to go 7, because I think he's going to do that. But I think he's going to have to against this Boston Celtic juggernaut. So that's really what it is, man. Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown, Marcus Smart, they've been together so long. And you can see ahead of them just the same where they'll be together for a while too. It's not like if they don't get it this year, they ain't going to be right back next year with it. So this is how it is with the Celtics. I don't know if what I just said can align with what it is that I'm thinking, but it's almost like a grand contradiction. But I have a hard time believing that the Boston Celtics are going to win it if they don't get it this year. If this core doesn't capture it this year, I don't think they're going to be better next year. Al Horford's getting a year older. You got to figure out what you're going to do with Peyton Pritchard because he's not going to be able to stay in that role for too much longer. He's too good for that. Some of those guards, I don't know how their contract situation goes, but keeping all of them as they're continuing to play well, if they're not on contract, could be a little difficult. If they are on contract, whoo, you know what I'm saying? If they can keep all those guards together, they're going to look great for many years. Jaylen Brown, there's been a lot of talk about him maybe wanting out of Boston. I don't think that happens if they win, if they get to the finals. But, you know, just the same, it's one of those situations where you never can tell with him because he has a different type of personality as it pertains to what he'll accept and what he won't. And he's been showing signs. And he's kind of tired of Boston, to be honest with you. And that's just me talking. If nobody wants to take that as doctrine, that's just fine. But I'm telling you what I'm sensing. He seems like he's on some other stuff. And maybe the area he's in may not be what's best for what he wants to be a part of. That's just me looking. But I think Jaylen Brown, the writing's on the wall that we can see him not retire a Celtic someday. Jason Tatum, not at all. He's going to be right there, and that's just it. But all in all, I look at the Boston Celtics as this is their time to try to win the championship. If they're going to get it, they better get it now. They didn't beat they didn't win. Keeping who was it? Golden State from getting it last year. But with the Miami Heat playing tournament team in front of them, keeping them from the finals, I don't see their chemistry being very strong if they lose this series. Maybe that's just me. Maybe it's just the Laker fan in me talking. But I think that it could severely fracture them if they fall short against a playing tournament team like that. Even if they've overachieved, they've been too good too long. They've been better than this team, and that's it. You don't expect to lose to the Heat if you're the Boston Celtics with home court advantage. You don't. So we'll see how it plays out, man. 7 games this will go, in my opinion. Ultimately, Spoelstra's going to fall short because he just ain't going to have enough without all his pieces. But it's going to be a hellacious series, and I do expect historic numbers from both Jimmy and Jason and Jaylen. Those guys are going to put up big numbers. These are defensive teams, so I'm not really sure. Now I think about it, the defense may actually keep the scores under 100 points in some of these games. Especially the way these teams tend to have a scoring drought, especially the Miami Heat. They go on scoring droughts. So, yeah. It's going to be interesting, man. Like I said, it's going to go 7 in my mind. So, we'll just wait, see how this plays out. Maybe the fact that Boston is much better on paper will finally show, and they'll sweep them boys. You know what I mean? Like they should sweep a play-in tournament team as the number 2 seed. You know what I mean? Maybe this will finally be the reality setting in for the Miami Heat. They're just not supposed to be here, and maybe we see that. But, you know, we have to see the games being played. I made it a point not to listen to the experts in regards to this series because I just wanted to give you my raw, ignorant reaction or whatever prediction. But I'm pretty sure that listening to those guys will break down why what I said probably ain't going to happen or something. I don't know. But it is what it is. This is how I see this series going. Distance, Celtics. Pretty much that's it. And yeah, man, hopefully my Lakers can be there to stop them from getting the chip because that's really what it's about for me as a Laker fan. So that's what I got. My name is BDO44. I thank you all for watching.